Hey, this is American Lawn Sale Fan, and I wanted to do just kind of a quick video. I title it 5 Knives That I Just Hate to Love. That is, knives that I bought. There was something about them that I just was hard to get over, but then I ended up really liking them because they either worked or they made up for it. So let's get right into it, and we're going to start with the cheapest one. This is the 12 Survivors folding knife, and I don't know anything about what's it? You see it right there, 12 Survivors. They make a lot of survival and camping gear, but it's all, of course, made in China, cheap junk type thing. But surprisingly, this was well executed. It's very small, and it's one of those little ring knives, so you can do more specific tasks. And but it's executed very well. Its lockup is tight. It's well made. It's a whole frame lock, kind of like the Gerber Paraframe. Smooth enough. I mean, you're not going to flick it open perfectly, but it feels good in the hand, and it does work. Comes out of the box real sharp. You know, no problems, especially with these ring knives, because they're not free to move. One of the worst designs is Gerber's Remix, particularly their Remix Tactical. It's just poorly done. This one is actually done pretty well, and on top of it, it was 14 bucks off of Amazon. So yeah, it does work. It's a utility knife. It's not a tactical knife, but it does work. Next one is going to be the KBAR Folding Hunter. Now, I bought this because I'm still kind of a fan of old school lockbacks. I still own buck knives, you know, the Buck Hunter. So this is KBAR's version, and what they decided to do was do a couple things. First of all, they attached a pocket clip, reversible, like so, and they smoothed out the action so that they included a thumb stud where it could still be opened, and the lock work is tight. Of course, it's a true lockback or back lock, and it locks in good, and it's pretty cool. It's 420 stainless, which can be a good thing in the sense that it's a little softer steel. I can actually get it to flex a little bit, but that's a good thing because that way the tip probably will less likely to break off if you're using it. But I had a hard time getting over the fact it's a classic all-American design, but damn it, it's made in China. But admittedly, it works, and it's very functional. Oops. You know, it's very functional. It works well. Damn, I just wish it wasn't so cheap. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Chi-Coms, but hey, I'm here making a video, so I know I got something made by the Chi-Coms in my house. So anyway, but it does work, and it's very inexpensive. You can always pick them up for under 20 bucks. So next one on the list is the Elmar. This is the newer version. This is the Elmar Siri, and this is the 2020 version. If you know anything about Elmar was, I believe was bought out, and they're starting to redesign everything. So the originals, well, I should say, if you know anything about Elmar, of course, their original designs were just beautiful pieces. They go for really high numbers. Then for a number of years, they made the Elmar 2000 series, which were made in Japan. They were VG10 steel, and they were just a perfect, beautiful, hard use knife. And damn it, I never bought one. I always thought about it, but you know, they weren't cheap. So, and I'm old enough to remember when Elmar first came out, and they were one of the most expensive production knives out there. Well, this is the new version, and understandably, to keep up and so forth, they went cheap, or cheaper, I should say. So yes, these are no longer made in Japan. These are made in China. I think it even says so here. Yep. Oh, dang it. It just seems so bad that you had something made in China now. That's something that used to be made in Japan and to high standards. Now it's made this way. But once again, kind of like the other two, this is done well. This is they changed it from a thumb stud to now it's an assisted flipper. Pops out real good. If you don't like assisted, that's fine. But what it does do is it just makes everything a little positive. Helps with the lock work, especially because you're not going expensive. Lock work is tight, very, very tight. If you can see I don't know if the liner is where it should be. These are also very thick liners, just like the original Elmar were, and fairly centered. And no doubt that because of their design, they feel good in the hand. So it was well executed. It just seems like a classic, very beautiful work of art went cheap, but they executed it real well. I can't blame them for that. Okay, this next one. This is the Cold Steel Spartan. Oh boy. What don't I like about this? Let's get this one out of the way first. Well, what almost was a deal breaker for me was the original pocket clip. If you know anything about some of Cold Steel's pocket clips, they're painted black steel, and they're not a spring steel. They're usually real small, so they would have only gone about this far. They don't bend easy at all. They can tear up your pocket, and they also grab onto the pocket too much. So what saved it was this was an aftermarket pocket clip. This is actual titanium. You can tell it just good spring action to it. It also goes to a deep pocket, much better. So that's number one. Number two, obviously it is big. It's a beef of a knife here. Just to kind of compare it real quick, let's bring back the Elmar. Yeah, it's a beast. So just huge knife. Now, what's its saving grace? Well, the saving grace is, yeah, it's built like a tank. It is out of the box, super sharp, and it is a working knife. It's very easy if you're cutting cord or cutting rope. It's very easy to catch it on the inner side of the the belly and just pull. Everything's gonna cut right easy. Obviously, for cutting boxes, you can still use the tip, and this is a decent chopper. This wide belly. I also think another saving grace was I was able to find an aftermarket pocket clip. I would not carry this thing in its original pocket clip. I just wouldn't. The other part that is a saving grace is, if you know anything about Cold Steel, they often make their XL's versions, like the Espada. And these are ridiculous. They're ridiculous size knives. This is right at that limit, or maybe a little over it, and not too much more. If this thing was any bigger, it'd be pointless. But surprisingly, it does fit well in the pocket. It's comfortable, it's light for how big it is, and it does work. Had it been even like a 1/16 of an inch bigger, I would have said no. One thing that they probably could have done is, since they really went aggressive with this belly and the blade, it makes the blade a little wider. I think they could have slimmed this down a little bit, but as it stands, it's not bad. There's also no denying that this thing is not going to slip in your hand. With the Copus inspired handle, it's not going anywhere. It's not overly grippy because it doesn't have to be forward or back. This thing is not slipping out of your hand. And the last one. This is Bassinelli's Creations Red Folder. All right, what don't I like about this? Its price tag. Jeez. It's generally going to be anywhere from 250 to 300 bucks. 250 is the cheapest you're going to find it from Blade HQ, and that doesn't even count shipping and tax. So generally it's going to cost you close to 300 bucks minimally. And then retail it goes for 300 if you go directly to their website. And that's a hard thing to get over, especially because, yeah, it's made in Italy. If this was 100% American made, I'd say, okay, I'll spend 300 bucks, but I'm spending 300 bucks to, you know, for Italy. It's made by Lion Steel in Italy, and it's designed by Bassinelli Creations, who, you know, which is actually based out in Florida, but it's actually, they actually make everything by Lion Steel. And it just makes for a very expensive knife. Now, what's its saving grace? It's well designed and it's well executed, bar none. Even the things that I kind of were head scratchers for me at first ended up really redeeming itself. So, like for me, surprisingly, and I'll do it this way. If they can show you, it's a titanium on one side and G10 on the other. Well, there's no liner on the G10. There's no steel liner, which I thought was kind of weird, but truth be told, doesn't need to be. It's got a ball bearing system, so there's no friction on the G10. It's got an aluminum spacer in the back part here, and that just kind of works, so no big deal. This pocket clip is removable, but it's not reversible. You can tell it's got a little bit of a swoop to it, so you could not put that on here because it would just kind of hang down. They'd have to give you a different pocket clip altogether. So no big deal because, well, I'm right-handed anyway, and this pocket clip is well done. It's good spring steel, especially with it being on the titanium side. It holds it together, it holds it in your pocket well, deep pocket carry, as you can tell, but it also just, it pulls out of the pocket very easily. Another thing is, at first I said, well, there's no lock bar stop. Well, actually there is. I didn't want to push it, but eventually I did. But there's no obvious one. You can tell there's no steel inset here that acts as a lock bar stop, and there's no like Harinder type disc lock bar stop. But there is one. This oversized nut, and you can kind of hear it, prevents it from going any further. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but you hear that? That stops it from going any further. So it does have a lock bar stop to it, but there's no inset. There's no steel inset. I've been told that Lion Steel really hardens the lock bar of the titanium, so it should last and last. And if you've seen my other video, you can open this thing a million ways. Every finger, that's middle. You can do, of course, pinky or ring for reverse. It's just, the ball bearing system is great. The detent is great because it locks into place and keeps it shut, which is what I want. I don't want the ability to necessarily flip this thing open because it means the detent is not working. But this detent, if you hear it, let's so you hear it. I mean, it locks it into place. It's not going anywhere until you want it to. So yeah, very expensive knife. Would have been a deal breaker, but damn it, everything is just done right. Super sharp D2 blade. Fits in the hand perfectly. Lightweight, just super lightweight, but fits the hand. Any kind of grip you want with this knife is just, it's just perfect. So I guess you get what you pay for. Anyway, that's all I got. God bless you and those you love.